When people think about oxygen, they usually think about trees, forests, and plants on land. From school, many of us learned that plants produce oxygen through photosynthesis and humans breathe that oxygen to survive. While this is true, it is only part of the story. What many people do not realize is that the ocean plays a massive role in producing the oxygen we breathe. In fact, scientists estimate that about half of the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere comes from the ocean, not from forests or land plants. This oxygen is produced by tiny living organisms called phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are microscopic algae that float near the surface of the ocean. Even though they are incredibly small, they exist in huge numbers. Together, they form the base of the ocean food chain and perform photosynthesis, just like plants on land. During photosynthesis, phytoplankton use sunlight, carbon dioxide, and nutrients to create energy. Oxygen is released as a byproduct of this process. Every time phytoplankton perform photosynthesis, they help maintain the oxygen balance of the planet. Without enough iron, phytoplankton struggle to carry out photosynthesis efficiently. This discovery helps scientists better understand how ocean ecosystems work and how climate change could affect oxygen production and marine life in the future. Iron may seem like an unusual element to connect with oxygen production, but it is essential for life in the ocean. Iron is called a micronutrient, which means living organisms need it in small amounts. Even though the amount needed is small, it is absolutely critical. In phytoplankton, iron is required for the molecular machinery that captures light and converts it into chemical energy during photosynthesis. Inside phytoplankton cells are complex structures called light-harvesting proteins. These proteins absorb sunlight and transfer that energy to special reaction centers where photosynthesis happens. Iron plays a key role in making sure this energy transfer works smoothly. If there is enough iron, energy flows efficiently, and photosynthesis produces oxygen and food for the phytoplankton to grow and reproduce. When iron is scarce, however, this process breaks down. The light-harvesting proteins become partly disconnected from the reaction centers. Instead of being used to make energy, much of the absorbed sunlight is wasted. This wasted energy is released as fluorescence, which scientists can measure. As a result, phytoplankton grow more slowly, produce less oxygen, and remove less carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Unlike nutrients such as nitrogen or phosphorus, iron is not evenly distributed throughout the ocean. Much of the iron in seawater comes from wind-blown dust that originates on land. Deserts and dry regions release fine dust particles into the air. Winds can carry this dust across continents and oceans, eventually depositing it into seawater. When the dust settles into the ocean, iron dissolves and becomes available for phytoplankton. Another important source of iron is glacial meltwater. As glaciers melt, they release iron-rich particles into nearby ocean waters. This is especially important in polar regions, such as the Southern Ocean around Antarctica. These regions often contain plenty of sunlight and other nutrients, but iron can be the one missing ingredient that limits phytoplankton growth. The Southern Ocean is one of the largest and most important regions on Earth for regulating climate and carbon dioxide levels. Because iron is often scarce there, phytoplankton growth is naturally limited. This makes the Southern Ocean a key area for studying how iron affects photosynthesis and oxygen production. The research focuses on the Southern Ocean and the South Atlantic Ocean. These waters surround Antarctica and play a major role in global ocean circulation. They also support rich marine ecosystems including krill, fish, penguins, seals, and whales. For decades, scientists have known that the Southern Ocean contains large amounts of nutrients but surprisingly low levels of phytoplankton growth. This phenomenon is called high nutrient, low chlorophyll conditions. The main reason for this is iron limitation. Even though other nutrients are available, the lack of iron prevents phytoplankton from fully using sunlight to grow. Because the Southern Ocean is so large, even small changes in iron availability can have enormous effects on global oxygen production, carbon cycling, and marine food webs. This is why scientists are deeply interested in understanding exactly how iron affects phytoplankton at the molecular level. One of the most important aspects of this research is how the scientists studied phytoplankton directly in the ocean, rather than only in laboratory settings. In the past, much of what scientists knew about iron limitation came from lab experiments. While useful, lab conditions do not perfectly reflect the complexity of real ocean environments. The lead author of the study, Hashani Pupulwat, spent 37 days aboard a research ship traveling through the South Atlantic and Southern Ocean. The ship followed, a long route from the coast of South Africa to the icy waters near Antarctica and back again. During this journey, Kipulwat collected water samples from different regions of the ocean. The researchers used specially designed instruments called fluorometers, which were developed at Rutgers University. These tools measure fluorescence, which tells scientists how efficiently phytoplankton are performing photosynthesis. High fluorescence means that energy is being wasted rather than used for oxygen production. By conducting these measurements directly on the ship, the scientists were able to observe how phytoplankton responded to iron shortages in real time. This approach provided a much clearer picture of how iron stress affects photosynthesis in natural ocean conditions. The study found that when iron is limited, up to 25% of the light-harvesting proteins in phytoplankton become uncoupled from their energy-producing centers. This means a large portion of sunlight absorbed by phytoplankton cannot be used effectively. Instead of producing oxygen and chemical energy, the excess energy is released as fluorescence. This represents a major loss of efficiency. In simple terms, phytoplankton are working harder but producing less oxygen and less food for themselves and for other marine organisms. When the researchers added iron back into the water samples, something remarkable happened. The phytoplankton quickly reconnected their internal systems. The light-harvesting proteins became coupled again with the reaction centers, and photosynthesis efficiency improved. This showed that iron stress is reversible, at least in the short term, and that iron availability directly controls how well phytoplankton function. One of the most striking statements in the article comes from Professor Paul G. Falkowski, a co-author of the study. He explains that every other breath we take contains oxygen that originally came from the ocean. This does not mean that humans would suddenly run out of oxygen if iron levels dropped. The atmosphere contains a large reserve of oxygen, and changes happen over long periods of time. However, reduced oxygen production in the ocean could have serious long-term consequences. If phytoplankton produce less oxygen and remove less carbon dioxide, this could affect climate regulation and ocean chemistry. Over centuries, such changes could alter atmospheric composition and ecosystem stability. The consequences of iron limitation go far beyond oxygen. Phytoplankton are the foundation of marine food webs. They are eaten by krill, tiny shrimp-like animals that play a crucial role in ocean ecosystems. Krill are the main food source for many larger animals, including fish, penguins, seals, walruses, and whales. If phytoplankton growth slows due to iron shortages, there will be less food for krill. With fewer krill, populations of larger animals may decline. This could lead to fewer whales, fewer penguins, and less biodiversity in the Southern Ocean. Professor Falkowski warns that while humans will not suffocate, marine ecosystems could suffer greatly. The loss of these animals would not only be tragic from an ecological perspective, but could also affect fisheries and human communities that depend on the ocean for food and livelihoods. Climate change adds another layer of concern to this issue. Scientists believe that changing wind patterns, ocean circulation, and melting ice could affect how much iron reaches the ocean. For example, if desert regions become wetter, less dust may be carried into the atmosphere. If ocean currents change, iron-rich waters may not reach phytoplankton-rich regions as efficiently. In polar areas, melting glaciers may temporarily increase iron input. However, long-term changes could disrupt the delicate balance that supports marine productivity. Understanding how iron cycles through the environment is essential for predicting how climate change will impact ocean life. Phytoplankton do more than produce oxygen. They also play a major role in removing carbon dioxide, CO, from the atmosphere. During photosynthesis, phytoplankton absorb CO and convert it into organic matter. When they die, some of this carbon sinks into the deep ocean, where it can remain for hundreds or thousands of years. This process, known as the biological carbon pump, helps regulate Earth's climate by reducing greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. If iron limitation reduces phytoplankton growth, the ocean's ability to absorb carbon dioxide may weaken. This could make climate change worse by allowing more CO to remain in the air. This study is important because it shows with real-world evidence how iron directly affects photosynthesis at the molecular level in natural ocean environments. By using advanced tools and conducting measurements at sea, the researchers moved beyond laboratory assumptions and provided clear proof of how iron stress changes energy use in phytoplankton. These findings help scientists build better models of ocean productivity, climate regulation, and ecosystem health. They also highlight how seemingly small factors like dust particles blowing into the ocean can have enormous effects on life on Earth. The story of iron and phytoplankton reminds us that Earth's systems are deeply interconnected. A grain of dust from a desert can travel thousands of kilometers, fall into the ocean, feed microscopic algae, support krill, sustain whales, regulate climate, and contribute to the oxygen we breathe. This research encourages a greater appreciation for the ocean's role in sustaining life. It also shows how human-driven climate change can affect even the smallest organisms, with consequences that ripple through the entire planet. In simple terms, the article explains that iron is essential for ocean algae to produce oxygen efficiently. Without enough iron, phytoplankton waste energy, grow more slowly, and produce less oxygen and food. Climate change may reduce iron supply in some regions, threatening marine ecosystems and weakening the ocean's ability to regulate climate. While humans will not suddenly lose the ability to breathe, the health of the ocean is closely tied to the health of the planet. Protecting ocean systems, understanding nutrient cycles, and addressing climate change are all crucial for maintaining life on Earth, both above and below the water's surface.